what we do is IT services for architectural and engineering firms. So there are large architectural companies out there that need IT help, either at a PC support level, at a network level, or at a strategic level. So we come in, and whatever they don't have, we supplant. And it's been a pretty good business situation so far.
So far?
So in terms of success, we've actually been profitable from year one.
Oh, wow.
The dollar amounts of gross revenue hasn't been huge until the last couple of years, but we have been profitable from day one. Profitable every year. Every year has been better than the year before, and this will be another record year for us. I do get asked quite a bit about what level of education I've had and what sort of education is required to get into a field like IT. And to be perfectly honest, I was a high school dropout. I left high school at 17, and just as my senior year was beginning. I did take some community college, but my courses were primarily soccer and tennis and a little Spanish. So IT is one of those fields, at least for a large part of it, where formalized schooling isn't necessarily a mandate in order to achieve great things. And I think if you look at some of the leaders of the IT world, Gates and others, they didn't necessarily have a lot of formal schooling. When it was just myself applying buttress, it was just fear of failure, and just I think people what I've come to learn is that people kind of have a innate desire to either do really well, or people just sort of don't really care. They do sort of a bare minimum, and I know that's sort of simplistic and generalistic, but I've always kind of cared, sort of regardless of what job I was in. Even when I was selling shoes at JCPenney or flipping burgers at Burger King, I wanted them to be really good burgers. And so I think people kind of either have that or they don't have that. And for better or for worse, I've had that. Mm. And now that it's not just me, now it's about the other people that work with me, and making sure that they're always going to have their paycheck every 2 weeks, that they're always going to have that health care and their benefits. So that's what drives me now. When I was growing up, there was nothing more I wanted to be than a diplomat. That was the be-all, end-all in my world. In fact, about 12 years ago, I went and interviewed to be a computer technician for the State Department. And then when I found out that they paid like $25,000 a year, that was sort of the end of that dream. Yeah, I wanted to be a diplomat very badly. I did fairly well on my SATs, and there was some discussion with Johns Hopkins, which would have been a dream. Unfortunately, the early termination of my high school career sort of ended that. So in terms of my career choice, I don't know that everybody is lucky enough to really pick their career. When you're younger, unless you do a specific college route, where in high school you've identified what you want to be, and then you go to college for that item, and then you come out and you go into that role. I just don't think that that's a huge percentage of the population that goes through that. I think what happens is people kind of bounce around. You try different things, you do different things, and if you're lucky enough to find a career that somewhat aligns with something you're interested in or that you enjoy doing, you're ahead of the game. Most people out there are going to work 40 hours a week and collecting a paycheck and just doing it to get by, without deriving a whole lot of enjoyment or personal satisfaction from it. My favorite thing about Flying Buttress and my work with Flying Buttress is my interaction with other people, and the challenge, I think, of just running a business. For those of you out there that are considering an entrepreneur type career, it's very, very different to run a business than it is to work for a business. Even when I worked at very large companies and I had way more staff under me than I do now and much larger budgets, it was always a much easier thing to do to come into work every day and to execute. You're in when you're a worker, when you're working for someone else, you're just sort of in the ship. You're along for the ride. You're helping and you're helping that ship get to where it needs to be, but you're still just sort of a person on the ship. Whereas when you run your own company, you're the one steering the ship. It's really all on you, and where the ship goes and what the ship does is completely on your shoulders. So it's a very different perspective, and I found working in corporate in the corporate world much easier. So right now we have 5 full-time employees and we have 2 1099 contractors, and we're looking to hire 2 more full-time employees right now at the moment. We're hoping next year that we gross $1 million in revenue. Currently, because of the way IT is, individuals work from their home most of the time. In fact, as you can hear, we're working in my house now. But it works for us. It's a good situation to be in. My advice, and I'm an old, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think if you think of, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but basically, you know how when old people fall down and they break a hip, whatever, small fall, and they're busted. And that same person who's much younger, they fall down, it's nothing, they bounce back. And I think you can really equate that to sort of just life in general. You right now, I think there's a window of your life from your mid-20s probably up to 30, where you can try new stuff. You can go out and take risks, and you can fall down, and you're going to bounce back up okay. Now is the time to travel. Now is the time to go out and try and fail, because this window that you have in your 20s, it's going to be a lot easier for you to rebound from things that maybe don't go so well or things that you don't enjoy doing than it will when you're 40 or 50 years old. You really, again, what would the current you say to the old you is that window, and I don't want to freak out the overachievers in your class, but that window of opportunity for you to get out there and attempt great things and possibly fail and fail hard, but to at least attempt them, that window is shrinking. And when and sometimes it can shrink instantly. You get married and you have kids, and all of the risks that you would have taken a couple of years ago, then now they go out the window. You're just not willing to do what you might have done when it was just you. So I would greatly encourage people to take the risks when they're young, to try new things, and don't always assume that window of opportunity to try that stuff is always going to be there, because it won't. The window does close.